Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies. Becker Retirement Group is an independent financial services firm that helps people create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance and investment products. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to safety, security, or guaranteed lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investment products. Insurance and annuity product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Becker Retirement Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. You should talk to a qualified professional before making any decisions about your personal situation. We are not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
This is Real Retirement Radio with Arwen and Randy Becker. With the Retirement News Network's Megan Mozak. With more than 45 combined years of advisory experience, Arwen and Randy founded Becker Retirement Group in 1999 with the understanding that retirement is more than just money. It can be the best time of your life. This is Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Glad to have you with us today here on the program. I'm Megan Mozak from the Retirement News Network alongside the Beckers, Arwen and Randy Becker of Becker Retirement Group. I want to give you their phone number today as we get rolling on the show. It's 800-725-8220. Arwen and Randy, they've been helping people right here in our community plan successfully for retirement. They've been doing that several decades. They'd love the chance to help you. If that's you, if you need help in this area, if you're getting closer to retirement, you don't have a plan, or you're needing a second opinion, this is where I would encourage you to reach out to Arwen and Randy. Take advantage of all their time in the business and call. Here's the number again, 800-725-8220. And I want to start our show, Arwen and Randy, by asking our listeners to take just a quick trip down memory lane, some of those significant milestones in your life. Remember, after graduation, you went off into the real world and you faced a lot of unanswered questions at that point. And then you got married. And boy, that was a transition, was it not?
Yeah.
Then your first child came, and they don't give you that instruction manual at the hospital when you leave, unfortunately. And there's just all these huge life transitions we go through. And the transition to retirement brings up some pretty big questions too. And a lot of those have to do with our money, our financial well-being. Arwen and Randy are going to help us with this. They're going to shed some light on some of the most important questions that you should be asking yourself before you retire. We're also going to guide you through the process of answering each of those questions. Because, Arwen, correct me if I'm wrong here, the goal is to enter retirement with confidence rather than doubt and uncertainty, right?
Yeah, you're totally right, Megan. And you know what? You actually made me think of, those days back in school when, a lot of times we maybe had one home ec class and maybe they talked a little bit about balancing a checkbook, something like that. That's not a lot of preparation for how to handle finances and money. And so a lot of times these things continue to perpetuate to kind of continue on as we get older, and that we just haven't got a lot of the education that's necessary to really know how to retire, because it's an emotionally really tough thing for a lot of people too. Because, Randy, one of the hardest jobs that we have is when people trying to convince people that, one, you're going to stop working and so your income's going down, but hey, we're going to also ask that you spend more money early on too.
Exactly. Yes.
That's a really hard thing for people to emotionally get their brains around. So, it's really trying to figure out, how do I know when I'm ready? How do I know that I have enough to retire? And what are some of these important questions that you're asking yourself before you retire? And so that's really what we're going to try and get to, some of those questions and give you some answers about. So it's going to help make the journey through and to retirement a little bit less stressful and more enjoyable, because actually, statistically speaking, and what they've seen through different studies that they've done, is the best years of people's lives are between the age of 60 and 75. So we want to make those the best years of your life. So if you're already retired, that's okay too. We see a lot of people who have already made this jump, maybe still are a little unsure. So we're going to have you ask yourself these questions too, because it's never too late. And hopefully we'll be able to instill some of that great confidence into you today.
Okay, so I want to get started. We have a lot to get to here, Randy, and I'll ask you, what is that first question that we should be asking ourselves as we're getting closer to that transition to retirement?
Well, the first one can be really fun to answer. And it's funny that you hear that this coming from, a retirement planning company like us. It's what is your perfect day? What are your values? I like to say, what makes you tick? In other words, the picture of retirement is not about sitting down and counting your money and doing a review every day and checking this and checking that. For some people, that actually might be what makes them tick, and that's their hobby. And that's great. But fact of the matter is that's not for everybody, and that's not for most people. So in other words, what do my retirement dreams look like? What is my perfect day? Arwen loves to talk about that at not only the workshop she conducts, but also in our first interviews, our first meetings with people. It's what makes you tick? What are you doing when you're most calm and you're most relaxed? And we like to ask the question, what can be done to create more of those perfect days? Now, certainly there's a tie-in knowing that you have sort of a relaxed state because your finances are working the way that they need to work. But there's a big reason why we put the tagline under our firm name that says this could be the best time of your life, because it really can be. And like Arwen said earlier, studies have shown that this is where people have this convergence of health, wealth, and if you add wellness to that and some dreams, man, it can be a great time. And that's what we always love to try to help people, put together.
Yeah, and time and having time. I mean, if you're not working, you have more time to do all the things that you want to do. But I mean, probably the number one question that we get from people, whether they're in maybe their late 50s looking at retirement, maybe they're in their late 60s looking at retirement, the question tends to be the same. How do I know when I'm ready? How do I know that I'm going to have enough money when I retire? And that is really a question that we as a company help people answer every single day. There's so many circumstances that everybody faces that are very different, and they come in with all these different pieces. And it's like, how do all these pieces of this puzzle fit together to provide a plan that's not only going to provide me income for the rest of my life, but also be able to pay for healthcare when I'm in my 80s, or if my spouse passes away, that there's still going to be enough for me. This is what we do. All things retirement. We're focused specifically on that. So if that resonates with you, and you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, let's get working on your specific plan. So give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. And what we're going to do is we're going to schedule a time to have what we call an initial visit. We're just going to talk through your best life retirement plan. And I promise you, you're going to find it extraordinarily valuable. Part of our mission statement is to always leave people better than when they came in. So if that's the only time we sit with you, we know you're going to leave something of value. So give us a call, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. We are here to help you any way we can. So call now, 800-725-8220.
Glad you're aboard today here on the program. Again, that number, 800-725-8220. We talk a lot on the show about the importance of doing something today that your future self will thank you for. And if retirement is around the corner, you want to take action. So don't let another day go by. If you know it's time to get that plan, call Randy and Arwen, the team at Becker Retirement Group, right now, 800-725-8220. Online as well. Great website for you at beckerretirement.com. Now, let's talk about why, Arwen, it's so important for us to do some thinking in advance about how we envision our retirement, what we see ourselves doing each and every day.
Yeah, well, Randy kind of mentioned that at the beginning. It's about looking at what your perfect day is, because when you're really when you're looking at the values that you have, or you and your spouse have, that makes financial decisions a lot easier to make, to know where you're going to focus your money. So knowing really what the things are that matter to you, that you want to be focusing on in retirement, that you want to be spending your time and your money on, and then also just being ready for those unexpected things. We've seen it. Randy's been in this industry now for 31 years, and he always says one of the important components of retirement planning is really planning for those unexpected things and having a lot of control in your retirement, because those things do come up, and people think, at one point they're never going to make that decision, whatever it is. Maybe it's to buy a house in, Arizona or something like that. And then one day they just decide that that's what they want to do. And so that changes the planning piece. So making sure that you're asking yourself those questions, and then also working with somebody who can flesh some of those things out and make sure that you have a lot of that covered. So if you're thinking about it, if you're going to relocate or you're going to stay in the home that you're currently in, downsizing is not what downsizing used to be in our area 10 years ago, because really what you do is you downsize to the same cost of home. It's just smaller. And so a lot of people, they can't necessarily downsize staying in the Puget Sound. They have to move somewhere. Or are you going to end up moving to where your grandkids are? Or, maybe split time between multiple homes, be a snowbird here or, vice versa. So there's a lot of different questions to ask, and then making sure that you have plenty of money set aside for those unexpected things. You need to replace the roof, or the water heater goes out, or you're just getting the great, awesome tip on the next new cruise that your friends are going to go on, and you want to make sure that you can secure up your space with them. So it's a lot of this planning piece, and we want to make sure we can flesh those things out for you.
Randy, what's another important money-related question that we should be asking and considering if we have retirement approaching?
Well, this is one that's not new to anyone facing retirement, because right now it's shown as being one of the most important considerations for someone age 55 and above, and that is, how long will my retirement last? It's one of the biggest fears that's out there. And until you get that question answered, and answered clearly with a great plan, then it's really hard to put your dreams front and center, because there's this lurking little, nightmare in the closet. So the way it works is this. The fact of the matter is, people are retiring at about the same age as they have historically, but we're all living longer.
Yeah.
And so there's financial ramifications to that. Great. There's a lot more life to live and fun to be had, but will there be enough money to fund a longer retirement, and one that could last nowadays for several decades? And this is why it's really useful to start asking yourself questions about longevity, and to ask those questions now. One thing to consider to get a better idea of what your own longevity might look at is to look at your genetics. Also, Arwen has this really great little worksheet that she hands out at our workshops, and it's fun. It has a little bit more of a study of your habits, your lifestyle habits, crossed with genetics and family history. But there's various things that you can also do online that are kind of fun, but really it's serious business.
Yeah.
Arwen, you know some stats about this,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if you think about it, not even 120 years ago, in 1900, the average life expectancy was 47 years of age. So retirement did not exist. You were alive, you worked. And then you have Social Security comes on the scene, and it didn't turn on until people were age 65. And at that point, life expectancy was 62. So here you are now, and you have people, men living on average to 82, and women living older than that, and couples into their late 80s and into their 90s. And so there's a lot of pieces that look into, and that is the part of the planning puzzle that really helps to have somebody who has walked through this over and over that can give you a degree of certainty. Because again, our goal is to make sure you're emotionally ready to be retired and spend the money early on when you have your health to do it.
So when it comes to your financial future, coming up short with monthly income during retirement, that's not an acceptable outcome at all. You deserve the confidence that sources from which you intend to draw income, such as 401ks and Social Security, they'll provide the means to live the lifestyle you desire. And so if you have a vision for retirement and you want to dictate how your future unfolds rather than have financial limitations dictate you need a strategy for retirement. And that's exactly why we build what's called the Best Life Retirement Plan. This is what it's designed to do. It's going to evaluate your financial circumstances. It's going to let us climb into a flight simulator and take a test flight. The good news is we still have both feet on the ground. So we can see, will your cash flow be sufficient? Will your retirement nest egg be safe? Will you be prepared for longevity, for inflation, and for potential healthcare costs? So what we're doing is we're suggesting you set a time right now. Give us a call at 800-725-8220. to get your own personalized best life retirement plan. That number again is 800-725-8220. It never hurts to get a second opinion. You may have already had a retirement plan prepared. It's time to revisit that. So if you don't have one, that's a great time then to get started today. It's 800-725-8220.
And our next two money-related questions that you should be asking yourself have to do with magic numbers. Find out what those magic numbers are up next.
You're listening to Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network. Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, checking my accounts, then that little voice in my head. What on earth are you doing? Why are you trying to be your own financial advisor? You don't know anything about the financial business. You got too much money at stake to do this by yourself. Too many people are counting on you. Sometimes you gotta listen to those voices. So I made the call. Monday, I got the call back and met with Arwen and Randy Becker. Just the three of us. Had my numbers, portfolio, basically everything, and they said, put that away. We didn't talk about what I had. We talked about what kept me up at night. What Karen wants when we retire. Don't want to let her down. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and now here it is. We're not quite ready to retire, but we're ready to be ready.
Let's talk. Becker Retirement Group, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies.
This is Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Hi, it's Megan Mozak from the Retirement News Network. Glad to have you aboard on the show today. We're glad you're spending some of your day with us. I want to give you Randy and Arwen's phone number as you're listening today. If you have questions about anything we're discussing or you're ready to set that visit with them in the office, you can call 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. 8220. We're talking today about what we think are some really important questions to ask yourself as you approach retirement. And this next one, Randy, it seems pretty obvious, but you tell me it's amazing how many people simply overlook it.
It really is amazing to see, but it's okay. It's because that's what my team is here for. It's to help answer these questions. And that question is this: how much money will I need to save for retirement? Seems pretty obvious. This is one of those retirement magic numbers people need to really get a handle on, and the sooner the better. Really put your pen to paper and start getting this figured out. In today's pensionless world, you know, your substantial nest egg really makes the difference. In fact, it's designed to pick up the difference. And how substantial of a difference? Well, that depends entirely on the person and individual factors related to health, life expectancies, expenses, and standard of living, and a whole lot more.
So is there any sort of round number then, Arwen? What are we looking for? What are we shooting for in terms of the size of our retirement nest egg?
Oh, everybody loves this answer, Megan. It depends. You know, we've had back-to-back appointments in the past that I can recall where one couple came in and they had $250,000 saved for retirement. Then the couple right after them had $2 million saved for retirement. Well, at first glance, you would assume that the people with $2 million would be more than sufficient, and the other people, maybe they don't have enough. However, when we actually put pen to paper and did what Randy's saying, really started looking at the numbers and running the data through our very sophisticated retirement tool, we found something very interesting. So when they came back in, the couple who had $250,000, by the time they were in their 90s, they had about $1.5 million saved in that retirement account. Whereas the couple who had $2 million, they were broke by the time they were in their mid 80s. And so it's really easy for us to get so focused on the number, but really it comes down to income that you have coming in month after month, year after year, again, like pensions and your Social Security, and maybe you have rental, and maybe you have a little part-time income overlaid with your expenses. Are they in line with the age in which you live and the amount of money that you have? And so it's looking at these pieces together. And a lot of times people, again, they get so focused on this number, and until you see it in a projection, it's really hard to know exactly how much you're going to need to make it last over the, next 20, 30, or could be even 40 years.
And as we speak about things like retirement nest egg and inflows and outflows, inflation, expenses, and things of that nature, it can be off-putting for many. Some people just don't know where to start and don't even want to talk about things like budgets or cash flow and things of that nature. But the fact is, this is a conversation that we at our company, we have nearly every day. So we know how to make it simple and understandable. And the fact of the matter is, it's a very important conversation to have. So that's where we can help. You see, everyone we meet with gets what's called a best life retirement plan. And this plan can really help you see what your retirement future looks like, what your expenses will look like, how to develop an income plan to make sure your money will last for your entire life, and how to address the ever important needs of healthcare and longevity. So why not just give us a call? It's 800-725-8220 and get started on developing a plan. Add some clarity to your situation so that you can have the confidence that your finances are taken care of and you can really live out this retirement that you deserve. So the number again, it's 800-725-8220. When you call our office, you'll be warmly greeted with an opportunity to sit and speak with either Arwen or myself or another team member, and we'll just be delighted to help formulate the strategy that makes sense for you. So it's 800-725-8220. Call today.
You're always welcome to check out the website. Make sure you visit beckerretirement.com. You can find out more about their best life retirement plan. Again, it's beckerretirement.com. Let's discuss the questions like, how long am I going to live after I retire? Those are hard to answer. We don't have a complete control over any of that. Can you think of any significant questions that you think we should be asking, though, that we do have some control over?
Well, I guess one that comes to mind immediately is, how do I know that I'm going to have enough money to actually retire? That is one of the most common questions that we get from people when we're sitting down in that initial visit. How do I know I have enough to be able to say I completely and confidently leave work behind and move forward with my retirement and never have to consider looking back or going back? And, oftentimes what Randy and I see is people actually, they kind of overshoot that number because, when you're thinking about, well, how much money do I need? How long do I have to work? Sometimes what we find is people just don't have the tools to really adequately crunch those numbers. And so they overshoot it. And it's a really great, pleasant surprise when we can tell somebody, actually you could retire a little bit earlier if you want to. Yeah.
What a great conversation that would be.
I know. And it happens more often than not because people get this, I need $1 million or I need X amount of money. And, if you think about it, hiring a financial professional to help walk you through that, somebody who specializes in all things retirement. It's kind of like, I use the analogy like a golf coach. You might be able to teach yourself the basics of golf, and that's great, and get your skills, enough to where you're comfortable being on the course. But if you really want to get better and you want to actually improve your swing, you're going to have to get a coach. You need to have somebody who can stand back, who has the experience and can catch those little small things that you're doing wrong that are going to have huge impacts on your future. It's just like a lot of people go, I have a little pension. And I'm like, really? You have a little pension? How much? And they're like, oh, it's only $150. And I'm like, that's awesome. $150 over the next 30 years that doesn't have to come out of your retirement assets is awesome. And so all of these things, as you think about hiring a coach, the same goes for retirement planning. Saving really is the easier part. You've been doing it throughout your professional life. But as you get closer to retirement, you're really going to want a professional that focuses specifically on the things that retirees deal with to be able to help you get further on down that home stretch, to know that you have that confidence to not only retire, but to be able to spend money early on when your health is there, your time is there. If you're married, your spouse is there. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's just the truth of the matter. I mean, an average woman or a woman is widowed on average at age 59. And so if you're putting things off until your late 60s, you might not have your spouse to do that. So we want to, make you confident to be able to do that kind of stuff. And that's why we're here to help.
We're talking a soft target date for retiring, right, Randy? We're not actually circling a date on the calendar, or are we?
Well, that really does depend, of course. You're establishing a target date for retirement, and it often is soft. It's like, I plan on doing this out in 2022, let's say, for example. But remember, life has a way of sometimes throwing a curveball. Certainly, there's the chance that, you don't have control of that retirement date. You might get a letter this coming month, who knows, and you're asked to step away with a package or something of that nature. But this is why having a plan, positioning your assets earlier than later so that they can create income for you, making sure that you're evaluating the risks and the perils that you're going to face going into retirement so you can create a plan to address that. That's why it's important. Now, the other thing, keep in mind, is it can go the other way. You have this target date for retirement, but you just choose to continue to work, or you do something different. You do sort of a lifestyle job, something that would fulfill a dream of yours. That's not only great for your health and mental well-being, but it's also fantastic financially because, again, any pressure that you can take off your nest egg is, detrimental to the long-term health of your financial resources. Right, Ar?
Yeah. Again, it's about having an understanding of how all these pieces work together. I mean, it's just like 5 or 6 pieces of paper passed across the table and individuals saying, how do I know that this is going to work, that this is going to help me through retirement? I just don't know how these pieces function together along with my expenses and Social Security and pensions and, and the value that I have in my home and all that kind of stuff. And oftentimes, we might meet with couples where, one's really, really involved and engaged in what's going on in the finances. And for whatever reason, the other spouse isn't. Either they just can't stand talking about finances. Randy and I have been married a lot of years. Sometimes, it's hard to discuss finances with your spouse, but yet sometimes when you get an outside person in that can help to distill things in a different manner, it makes a little more sense. And we actually had this happen not too long ago where we had a couple come in. He was so on top of these finances. He knew exactly what he wanted. And he came down and he sat down and said, I've got $1 million in this 401k and this is what I want to do with it. And ultimately I had to stop and slow down the process. And I just said, I apologize, but we're not going to get to that at this meeting. And we're actually not going to get to it at the second meeting either. Because in order for us to do really our job and to make sure that we're protecting our licensure as well, we need to make sure that we kind of, like a doctor, we study your medical records. We know what you've done in the past. We know what's going to be best for you. And then we can look at how all that goes together. But really looking at, happened to be the wife who was kind of disengaged in this conversation. When I looked at her and I said, but I think it's going to be really helpful for you. And she was so surprised that anybody was even talking to her because up to this point, nearly 40 years of marriage, she never understood their finances. And so by the time we were done with that second appointment and she could see where all of her accounts were, not that they were with us at that point, but where they were, what companies they were with, how those assets worked with their Social Security, and that we could show her if her husband passed away, she would still be fine. We could show her if her husband needed care, for health care, that it wasn't going to leave her destitute. That is the important piece of planning, because there's a big difference between investments and planning. And that is the whole intention that we have with our clients and the people who come in to see us, that we can help you understand how it functions together. Not everybody wants all the details, and that's all right. Some of you do, and we're happy to give that to you as well. But some people just want to know that they're cared for. And that's really a big part of what we do. So if this resonates with you and you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, let's talk about your plan, or let somebody in our office build one for you if you don't have one. And that's okay if you don't. So give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. And what we're going to do is we're going to schedule a time. We're going to sit down. We're going to have some coffee or tea or soda, whatever you would like. And we're going to just talk about what matters to you and how we might be able to be of assistance to you. And ultimately, our intention is to build out a best life retirement plan for you. I know you're going to find it very valuable. There's no cost to it. So please take us up on the opportunity. Give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220.
Much more with Randy and Arwen after this.
You're listening to Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Concerned about missing the boat to a confident retirement? Don't worry. It's never too late to establish your relationship with a financial professional. In fact, if you've already retired, it may even be more important to have a reliable, trusted advisor help keep your retirement strategy on track. Act today. Optimize your time horizon, your recovery time, and take advantage of available opportunities to develop your overall financial strategy. Don't walk alone. Choose to work with an independent financial professional. Why not start today?
If it's important to you to get started today to refine your retirement strategy, give me a call. I'm Arwen Becker with Becker Retirement Group. Let's sit down together and look at your options. Call me at 1-800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. By contacting us, you may be provided with information regarding the purchase of insurance and investment products.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, checking my accounts, then that little voice in my head. What on earth are you doing? Why are you trying to be your own financial advisor? You don't know anything about the financial business. You got too much money at stake to do this by yourself. Too many people are counting on you. Sometimes you gotta listen to those voices. So I made the call. Monday I got the call back and met with Arwen and Randy Becker. Just the three of us. Had my numbers, portfolio, basically everything, and they said, put that away. We didn't talk about what I had, we talked about what kept me up at night. What Karen wants when we retire. Don't want to let her down. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and now here it is. We're not quite ready to retire, but we're ready to be ready.
Let's talk. Becker Retirement Group, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies.
This is Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Glad to be alongside the Beckers today. I'm here with Arwen and Randy Becker. They're the founders of Becker Retirement Group, helping people plan for the retirement they've always envisioned for themselves. If you're trying to figure out how to make that happen for you, if you're ready to retire, it's getting close, but you don't have a plan, I want to encourage you to do two things today. Listen closely. We cover a lot of ground on our shows. I know you'll walk away with just a lot of great information and more confidence on your road to retirement. Keep Arwen and Randy's number close if you have any questions or you're ready to set a visit to get serious about your plan for retirement. It's 800-725-8220. That number again, 800-725-8220. On the show today, we're talking about questions to ask yourself before you retire so you can have that confidence that you're going to reach your retirement goals. Now, we've spent a lot of time so far, Arwen and Randy, talking about figuring out how much income that you need during retirement. Arwen, what are some of the common expenses that you see people failing to include when they're trying to calculate that rough estimate?
Well, one of the words I don't like to use is the word budget. Megan, it sounds like diet.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Ew.
People don't like that. So we talk about a cash flow worksheet. And whenever we have somebody coming in for an initial visit, we always send them out a cash flow worksheet. And so really, it's so important because your income and your expenses, those two pieces are really the biggest components in retirement planning. And then we use those retirement assets to fill in the gap. So you're looking at your expenses and you have this rough estimate of what you're going to be spending. You really have to look at everything. And that's everything from monthly bills to healthcare and then those things that you want to do, your leisurely pursuits, those types of things. So you're going to have your hard expenses. That's going to be things like your shelter and your food and clothing and healthcare and transportation, those kind of things. But then you're going to also maybe, at some point have your mortgage paid off. Maybe you already have it paid off, but there's still house related expenses. So you have things like maintenance and maybe, your basic upkeep and utilities and things of that nature and real estate taxes. Oh my gosh, we're getting buried in real estate taxes here. And then you have those things that are discretionary. So that would be your travel or dining out, the fun things, the hobbies and the painting and the clubs and the things that you want to be doing. So we really encourage everybody when they come in to have that projected on each line item. And what that's going to do is it's going to really help you understand where your money is going. And as we're looking at a 30-year or plus year retirement, it's really important that you double and triple check this because oftentimes people underestimate or they undershoot their expenses because if they do come in and they haven't done a worksheet, they'll kind of go, yeah, I think it's about this. And then when they actually put pen to paper, oftentimes people are surprised. So you really want to make sure that you triple check it, because you might forget a couple of things that first go around. So then once you have an idea of those expenses, then really it's how much of that income is going to be covered by those Social Security and pension, that kind of stuff. And then what we're going to need to fill in the gaps with from your retirement assets that you have.
All right. Seems pretty straightforward there. And Randy, in your experience working with retirees, you've been doing this, 30 years or more. Do you find their expenses tend to be higher? Are they lower? Are they the same compared to before retirement?
Megan, it varies from person to person, but generally expenses do tend to drop in retirement. One study of retirees I saw recently found the average total spending for post-retirement households was about 77% of the spending levels prior to retirement. And, it's going to be, that's just an average. I just don't like to apply a percentage to every single household. And Arwen was just talking about how we tend to do a deep dive in the cash flow aspect of retirement because it's so critically important. We like to take a look at the line items, and one of the things we'll do is we make sure we turn off certain expenses that are scheduled to turn off. We will then turn other ones on, such as Medicare or Medicare SUPs. But at the same time, we're going to inflate certain things, and then we won't inflate others like principal and interest on a mortgage, but we'll make sure that the mortgage is satisfied at a certain date. Maybe that's 2032. I don't know the number, but the bottom line is we're not going to just rely on your expenses will go down. The fact of the matter is, you asked a very valid question. We do see people tend to kind of clinch down a little bit, and here's why. You're going through a subconscious change in your life. You're no longer producing household incomes or two household incomes. You kind of sit back and look at things and go, this is it. So we better make it last. And you'll come together and generally just start to slice and dice those things that seem unessential, as you approach retirement.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head, Randy. And that's such a common issue that a lot of people face. They're so afraid to start spending in retirement because they're thinking, well, if I'm spending now, then I'm sacrificing my coverage for future health care. And that's a question that we help people answer every single day to be able to truly get to a place where they can, with a degree of certainty, know that you can spend confidently in those early years and that you're not jeopardizing your safety and your health when you're in your late 80s if you needed some form of care, or putting your spouse in a position where they're not going to have any money left over. So all of these pieces come together. But again, if you haven't walked this pathway with people over and over, like Randy has for the last 31 years, and for me in the last 18 years, seeing us walk through this, you might have some pitfalls that you run into. And so we're here to help you avoid that. And so if that speaks to you and you're thinking like so many other people, I'd really love to retire, but I'm not sure that I can, and that I'm gonna still have enough for future healthcare, let us talk to you about that. So if you've got $250,000 saved for retirement, let's have you come in and sit down. We'll have an initial visit. We'll just talk about your perfect day and the things you want to be doing. And we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll start building out a best life retirement plan for you. So our number is 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. And what we're going to do is we'll just schedule a time, we'll sit down, and you're going to find it extremely valuable. As I said, we always want to leave people better than when they came in. So that's always our intention. And so again, if that's you, 800-725-8220. Once more, 800-725-8220.
And the website. Go to beckerretirement.com if you'd like more information. Arwen, I'd like to stay on the monthly retirement income thought here for just a moment. Once you know the expenses, then is it really just a matter of figuring out where that income's going to come from?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And, I talk about it in our seminars, actually, when I do David Bach's Smart Couples Finish Rich or Smart Women Finish Rich. We actually talk about the different pillars of income. That could be part-time income, that's Social Security, that could be rental income that you have, that's your retirement assets, your savings. Studies actually show that between $20 and $40 trillion of assets over the next 20 years are also going to transfer via inheritance. So inheritance is oftentimes a factor as well for a lot of people, but we don't plan with it in mind because, if you're going home and you're seeing your parents over Christmas time and you're like, hey, mom and dad, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh, I'm feeling great. Thanks for asking. and then you walk away disappointed. That's not okay. You can't be doing that. So, we need to look at how these pieces come together, where these sources of income are coming from. And again, some of you might be fortunate enough that you still have a pension. And so that's going to be added into a piece of that. So there's a lot of different things. Your investment portfolios, when you're trying to get income, there's different ways to do that. Systematic withdrawals out of a diversified portfolio is oftentimes something we will do for individuals, but not everybody wants to be taking income out of a bucket that's at risk. So sometimes we'll utilize annuities to, kind of be that pension replacement if they need it as well. There's a lot of different ways to be able to find that income.
Randy, with some income sources like a pension or Social Security, you know what you're going to get, when you're going to get it. But those other sources, you don't. It's subject to change, right?
It certainly is. There's two categories of income, and we actually work our plan this way as well. It's going to be the guaranteed sources, and that will be Social Security. We've got, his and her or your single Social Security. Any Social Security strategy that we might help you discover and apply, of course, that is still in the guaranteed source. Then it's pensions. And what we'll end up doing from that point is backfill non-guaranteed sources of income. Now, a rental, it's kind of a hybrid. It's a good guarantee, but it can be interrupted, right? The other source of income would be from your investment portfolio. So what we'll do is we really will start with your hard guaranteed sources. We'll make a clean accounting of that. We'll apply any cost of living adjustments that would be necessary, but we're going to do it on a very, very conservative basis. Then we'll stack on things like rental income. We know that people are going to transition to required minimum distributions and, of course, investment income. And, the whole thing will be a puzzle that pieces together to be your inflows. And that's a really, really, really critical part of retirement planning.
Arwen, then what role does Social Security play in someone's overall retirement income strategy? How do you maximize that?
Well, statistically, it shouldn't be any more than 40% of what it is that you need of your income. So that's always something to keep in mind. And, really looking at the maximizing your benefit, I'm telling you, you need to be able to see it in the overall plan before you make that decision on how to take your Social Security. Because a lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to delay it or I'm going to wait until full retirement age. And sometimes taking it early is actually better for the overall plan. Maybe it's health related. Maybe you just don't really need Social Security is a huge part of it. So geez, Megan, if I gave you an extra, $1,200 a month for the next 4 years, do you think you can figure out what to do with it?
I think so. Not a problem.
Yeah. So it's seeing how it all functions together with everything you have. And so that's why it's so important to talk to somebody who can see that in the overall plan and then give you some feedback. And you might be a lot like many of the people that we see coming into our office these days. You don't have a pension. Randy and I have talked about that a lot. But what you do have is this chunk of money that you've saved in your working years at your company. And now you have to become an expert at distributing that back to yourself for the rest of your life. And that can really be overwhelming and a very daunting task that people just are not ready for. But that's not for us because that's what we do day in, day out. So let us help you figure out what's best for you. An annuity might solve that issue for you. It might be a diversified income portfolio. We won't know until we meet and we discuss your unique situation. So if that describes you, give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. And what we'll do is we'll talk about some of the options that you have. And then really, we call it co-creation. We give you the best options that we think fit your circumstance. And then you give us feedback. I love it, or let's tweak it here. Let's do a little bit of something different. 800-725-8220. Please give us a call. We'd love to sit down and talk to you. 800-725-8220.
Much more with the Beckers after this.
You're listening to Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network. Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, checking my accounts, then that little voice in my head. What on earth are you doing? Why are you trying to be your own financial advisor? You don't know anything about the financial business. You got too much money at stake to do this by yourself. Too many people are counting on you. Sometimes you gotta listen to those voices. So I made the call. Monday I got the call back and met with Arwen and Randy Becker. Just the three of us.
Had my numbers, portfolio, basically everything, and they said, put that away. We didn't talk about what I had, we talked about what kept me up at night. What Karen wants when we retire. Don't want to let her down. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and now here it is. We're not quite ready to retire, but we're ready to be ready.
Let's talk. Becker Retirement Group, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies.
The sooner you establish your relationship with an independent financial professional, the better. Why? That longer time horizon can give you more flexibility, broader product choices, more time to respond to market changes, more time to take advantage of opportunities, and more time to coordinate your entire financial strategy. Those are powerful reasons to get a professional in your corner while you're still working. Don't put off planning for your retirement. Choose to work with an independent financial professional. Why not start today? It may even help you retire earlier.
If it's important to you to get started today to refine your retirement strategy, give me a call. I'm Arwen Becker with Becker Retirement Group. Let's sit down together and look at your options. Call me at 1-800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. By contacting us, you may be provided with information regarding the purchase of insurance and investment products.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
This is Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Thanks for being with us today on the program. Great show today with Arwen and Randy Becker. They're the founders of Becker Retirement Group, helping you successfully retire. And they've been doing this together for a long time now, several decades. And if you're nearing retirement, if that's something that's getting close, has you a little nervous, well, you're not alone. A lot of people are finding themselves a bit overwhelmed in this department. A lot of questions to answer. Healthcare, taxation, how you're going to generate income once those paychecks stop. This is what Arwen and Randy focus on each and every day for their clients, and they'd be happy to take a look at your plan, give you that honest evaluation, a second opinion, or help you create a plan from scratch that covers all your bases. So call today if you have some concerns. If you're ready to get started, the number at Becker Retirement Group, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. There are some very important retirement questions that we need to be pondering well before we actually retire. And we've got a lot more to cover here in this area, Arwen and Randy, things like market volatility, healthcare. I wonder, Arwen, how do you suggest we start talking about or thinking about those topics when we're planning?
Well, that's part of what we as planners need to help bring those questions up to you and make sure that you're thinking about that and that we don't just kind of set them aside because maybe, quite honestly, some of us just don't want to talk about it. But it's really important that it comes up in this planning process. So I'm really going to encourage you to ask yourself a handful of these questions and then, really think about, how is this going to affect me? Is this something I worry about? It may be in my current plan. Is this a problem that could arise in the future? Here's one of the questions that we especially saw affect people in 2008. What if the stock market and the value of the assets that I've set aside for retirement totally nosedive when I'm about ready to retire or maybe right after I've retired? That's something that we saw in 2008 with people who were coming to our events right after we started hitting that. And so we really want to make sure, and I hammer this point in my events, to make sure that you are seriously looking at rebalancing, if you haven't done it even in the last 12 months, rebalancing any of your at-risk assets to make sure that they're structured properly for the ups and downs in the market, that you're not too heavily exposed to growth as you're heading into retirement or maybe just retired, because that's what hurt people in 2008. Our clients didn't experience that kind of horrible, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have to work 2 years longer type of experience. And so it's really important that you have professional advice, that you know that it's being rebalanced. We rebalance our portfolios daily. And it's really just a vital component to make sure that people are staying in their proper risk posture for the age in which they are and how long they're planning on working and possibly living. And then that brings me into my second question. Well, what if I live for a really long time? I mean, longevity is the number one risk that your retirement is going to face. It's not market risk. It's not taxes. It's not inflation. It is longevity. People were not expected to live this length of time. So you need to know with a degree of certainty. And again, this is what we do with our clients every single day, looking at those projections until the youngest spouse is at age 100. We want to solve for that because we don't want to have these unknowns creep up that end up leaving somebody once their spouse has passed away with not enough money in their late 80s. That is a horrible thing to see. And so we want to make sure that you have that kind of stability and you've got those projections to be able to back it up. What if, my spouse has some sort of serious health issue, which now dips into those assets? Again, this is a conversation we're going to have. We're going to show you what it's like if your spouse has to receive health care for 4 years and you have to pay it out of pocket. Does that leave you both without any assets, or does that leave the remaining spouse still well taken care of, having enough to make sure? So you need to ask yourself those questions. And moreover, if you're working with a planner and they are not bringing those up, I would seriously implore you to consider having a meeting with us, somebody in our team, to be able to talk through those things and make sure that you've got answers to those very, very important questions.
Indeed, they are really important questions. And Randy, when we're talking about those questions, I know one way we can help avoid some of the risk of riding the stock market roller coaster is to look at annuity products. Not always a great option for everyone, but I wondered if you could explain just quickly, broadly, what an annuity is and how some of these different types could be helpful.
I'm glad to do that. So it starts with the fact that an annuity can do two things, and it's deployed in our office in two different ways. One is it can be an income producer. In fact, the word annuity means steady stream of income. So it's really just perfectly designed to be an income producer. And when it can start producing income immediately, and very simply, those are called immediate annuities. What you do is you give a specific amount of money to an insurance company who will then pay you back a specified amount of money for your life or for a period of time. And it's just like a pension. Instead of being done for thousands of people, it's your own individual pension that you've purchased. Now, another thing that you can do with the income is you can defer that. And that is where you get started on creating a plan. You know you're going to need X when you retire, which is 5 years out. So you set aside a little money today, and then it will become your income source when you retire. And that can be, handled in several different ways. But one of the most popular ways is by using some sort of guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. When you add one of those to an annuity, that means you still control your cash value. So you're not making a bet or rolling the dice with an insurance company that says, wow, I hope I live long enough to get this back. No, instead, you actually receive that income, which is guaranteed for life. But if something happens prior to, when you were expecting to go, then the balance goes to your family members or your named beneficiaries, whoever those might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Annuities are oftentimes a really great piece to an overall plan, but not everybody is suited for an annuity. And, a lot of times people hear that word and maybe has a negative connotation. And we're not fans of variable annuities. We don't utilize those in the planning process. But an annuity sometimes really is a great piece. But for those of our clients that don't want that, and that's really not part of their desire for their overall plan, that's when we start looking at how do we utilize a diversified income portfolio? How do we build a really great structured portfolio that has a ton of diversification, a lot of simplicity with it, though, that's rebalanced daily, and that is still going to be able to have some tempering in the volatility space to be able to then take income out of that. So there's usually a blend of those things when you're looking at the planning process. But again, that's why we co-create a plan, because each piece is not always right for everybody. Not everybody always wants an annuity, and the same thing, not everybody always wants risk and have a portfolio that's invested in the market. We've got clients on both extremes, but the majority of our clients fall somewhere in between to be able to utilize these tools to the best of their ability as they work together. It's a really important piece when you're starting to think about what you own, how it's allocated, and how am I going to be getting money back from this plan that you've been, feeding into for your since your 20s, 30s, and 40s, and you've been accumulating and growing all these assets. So now it's really time to look at, okay, how do I protect these once I go into retirement? And, our number one priority as a company, it's our number one foundational pillar, is preserving what you have worked your entire life to accumulate. That is so important to us. So if that matters to you, please give us a call. And what we'll do is we'll sit down for an initial visit and we'll talk about what's the proper amount of risk to retain in retirement. So if you've saved at least $250,000, give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a thorough risk assessment of your current plan and to help educate you on what the proper balance of risk and safety is as you're heading into retirement, or maybe you're already there. And you know what, as I had said, diversification is a huge key. We want to minimize volatility and we want to help you really know how that all fits in your overall plan. There's absolutely no cost to it. We're going to just sit down. We'll talk about things. We'll do an analysis. It would be our absolute pleasure to give you some clarity and direction, especially as we continue in this uncertain time of the market. So if that feels like you, I urge you to pick up the phone, 800-725-8220, and you'll be connected with one of our financial professionals. That's 800-725-8220.
Arwen, it's clear there are a lot of questions we have to answer before we retire. I would think working with a professional can be really helpful here, but how do you find the right person?
Well, I always kind of tease that you don't go to a world-class pediatrician your whole life, because no matter how great they are as a pediatrician, things change. And oftentimes the same occurs when you are transitioning from accumulating all these assets in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and in your 50s, and now they've got to be distributed back to you for the rest of your life. So you really want to look at finding an individual, one that you get along with, that you can communicate with easily, that's going to be able to analyze your entire picture, how all of those things work together. Again, the difference between investing and planning, looking at protecting what's going on now and still helping you be able to spend for your future. All those things, again, come to the most common question that we get from individuals, which is, how do all these things that I'm passing across to you across the table are going to take care of me, that are going to allow me to spend confidently in those great, awesome years from 60 to 75? How am I going to get to spend confidently during that time and have all the fun stuff that I want to do, but know that future healthcare is covered for me? And then if something were to happen, my spouse, that I'm also going to still be well taken care of. It's knowing how all these pieces come together and really getting it to work in a way in which you can understand it. And I love seeing that aha moment when we work with people who maybe didn't really understand their finances. Maybe they've found themselves widowed, and all of a sudden they're going, oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't just, better understand this in the past. But you know what? It's never too late to have a good understanding of what you own and really what it is going to do for you in the future. So if you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, let's talk about your plan. And if you don't have a plan yet, that's fine. I love reviewing plans that people bring into us and being able to say grace on it, and they love their financial advisor. And again, we're going to leave you something of value, even if we only sit down for one appointment. So 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. What we'll do is we'll schedule that initial visit and we'll work through your best life retirement plan. You're going to find it extremely valuable. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to it. We would love to just visit with you and see where we can be of assistance. So if you want to find out where you're at in your retirement, give us a call at 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. We're here to serve you any way we can. We're going to make it a great experience. Again, that number, 800-725-8220.
You've been listening to Real Retirement Radio on the Retirement News Network.
Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies. Becker Retirement Group is an independent financial services firm that helps people create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance and investment products. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to safety, security, or guaranteed lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investment products. Insurance and annuity product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Becker Retirement Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. You should talk to a qualified professional before making any decisions about your personal situation. We are not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, checking my accounts. Then that little voice in my head. What on earth are you doing? Why are you trying to be your own financial advisor? You don't know anything about the financial business. You got too much money at stake to do this by yourself. Too many people are counting on you. Sometimes you gotta listen to those voices. So I made the call. Monday I got the call back and met with Arwen and Randy Becker. Just the three of us. Had my numbers, portfolio, basically everything, and they said, put that away. We didn't talk about what I had, we talked about what kept me up at night. What Karen wants when we retire. Don't want to let her down. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and now here it is. We're not quite ready to retire, but we're ready to be ready.
Let's talk. Becker Retirement Group, 800-725-8220. That's 800-725-8220. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Becker Retirement Group are not affiliated companies.